Hey, it's your favorite Stacy here again, filming this time from the fantastic St. Petersburg. What an amazing city this is. Today in the Hermitage, actually. This is the fourth largest museum in the world, and we've just done a little tour through there this morning, me and my lovely group of passengers. Seen some sarcophagi and Egyptian stuff. You know, it was a palace. Somebody chose to build this as a summer palace, I believe. Elizabeth, perhaps. One of those fancy queens. Anyway, so today I want to talk about something really, really important. And it's the kind of thing that you hate to do, probably. Because if you didn't hate to do it, you'd probably have done it already, because you know, logically, that it's got to be done. We're going to talk about balancing your books. Now, this can take 1 hour of your life. It can be done in half an hour. I've sat on the front lawn of my house and done it with a good friend of mine. We did it in 1 hour, and from that, he went from being in a bad situation. Within 2 months, he'd fixed it all up, and he was in the red. From the red to the black. He was actually not sure what he was going to do. He was in financial trouble, and just by balancing his books, he got to see where he was really at, because there's mystery expenditures that you do, and that I do, and that everybody does, that unless they're written down and honestly acknowledged, they go under the radar and they siphon away that little bit of extra cash that you think you get at the end of the week. If you think you're earning $30 bucks, let's say $30 an hour, $1,000 a week, you think you're earning $1,000 a week, or maybe you are earning $1,000 a week, and you think that your expenditure is, let's say, $800 a week, with your rent and your mobile and your petrol and your transport and your food and your alcohol and your drinks and your coffee or whatever it might be. So those are the typical things that people put in their head when I say to them, how much do you spend a week? Now, it's really important that you realize that that might be your weekly expenditure, but money is not about a week. Money lasts for, it's your whole year that needs to be taken into account. Because let's say it was 1,000 and you thought you spent 800, and those things, you added it up one day and it came to around 800, so you're like, yeah, I've got 200 spare. So which means you can buy a pair of shorts, and you can buy some shoes, and you can buy new sunglasses, and you can buy that flight occasionally. So people kind of just sort of, kind of go with the wind and think that, yeah, maybe it'll be okay. So what I find is that when I do this process with people, or when they do this process with themselves, they typically find that those annual expenses that they think are just a once-off and so on, they're actually consistent year after year after year, and they can actually be written into their weekly and monthly budgets. So things like flights to see your family, things like little holidays that you take every long weekend or whatever it might be. Maybe you spend an extra $500 on a long weekend because you go away to your little countryside place. Maybe you go to the dentist once a year. Maybe you like to buy a nice pair of shoes, or a new bicycle, or new tires for your car. Quite often people spend like a new mobile phone or a new computer. Maybe that's only every 3 years. So if you honestly put that into your budget and divided it by 3, it adds up. It might only be $5 a week for each of those things, but when you add up those $5 a week for each $2, $3, $4, $5 for each of those columns, it all adds up to an extra $100, $150. Now that's where your so-called 200 spare ends up disappearing to, and people think they're going forward, and then at the end of the year they're like, what the hell's going on? I'm backwards again. Now, I've seen this happen over and over and over. We do this process, people think that they're all good, and in their mind they've kind of got some spare money, so they justify buying this thing and that eBay purchase, and that impulse buys are okay by them. Now, I'm not suggesting that you do your numbers and never buy yourself a treat. What I'm suggesting is that you can't move forward towards your goals, and you can't really start to make some progress unless you really get clear on where you are right now. So, what that looks like is an Excel file. Picture this, an Excel file with 4 columns. First, you've got the items. So you put on all your weekly ones that come in first. Obviously, you've got fuel, you've got phone, you've got rent, you've got your food, you've got maybe alcohol, maybe cigarettes, maybe you like to indulge yourself in a particular thing. Doesn't matter what it is, but if you're not honest about it, maybe you like to go to a particular show. Maybe you like to go and spend money on lollies, and you don't like to tell people about it, but if you lie to yourself in this situation, you're only doing yourself harm. There's my models, my Russian models for the day. This is Olga and Svetlana. So look, there's 3 columns. First, you itemize all your things. The ones that come to you first, write them down in an Excel file, because it adds it up for you. first column would be weekly. So it's quite easy. You know how much rent you pay per week. You know how much your mortgage repayment is per week. What about your annual mortgage fees? Where does that go? So that's in the annual column. So you got a weekly column, a monthly column, and then an annual column. So something that's quarterly, like your electricity and your gas and so on, maybe put them times by 4, put them in the annual column, whatever it might be. So I hope you're getting a picture. But as you go through and as you sit there, you'll realize that, oh yeah, okay, honestly, I do buy a pair of runners. I spend this much on gym. Or I buy protein bars, and you put them in honestly, and your columns might end up growing and growing and growing. So when you've got all your weekly ones, times by 52 becomes an annual. Times by 52 divided by 12 becomes a monthly, and so on. So the monthly ones times by 12 fill in the annual column. So every box in all 3 lines should be filled in. This will give you the ability to see how much so if you're earning $1,000 a week, or if you're earning, say, $58,000 a year after tax and super, you can actually divide objectively through the annual column, the monthly column, and the weekly column, and see what you really should be earning per week to get ahead. Like I said, probably about 80 to 90% of people that do this find it very surprising, and they find it a little bit shocking. Some people are completely off, and they realize why, no matter how hard they feel they're working, the credit card seems to win every year. So this can be done very fast. You can do this in 1 hour. So this could be one of the most beneficial 1 hours of your life. It certainly was for me. When I did this, within a month, I had moved house. I had increased my income. I'd reduced my expenses ridiculously. I killed all my subscriptions. I really tightened up because I thought I was going ahead. I thought I was making lots of money. I lived in this nice house at the beach. I thought I was killing it, and then I did this process and I realized that I was actually going backwards, and it was a massive shock because I thought I was doing really well. And that's the case with a lot of people that I work with. They think they're doing well, maybe not really well, sometimes really well, and then they realize that when they be honest about those annual things, like your car insurance, it's annual, so you divide by 52 and see what that works out to, a weekly wage. Each thing might be $1, $2, $3, $4, but it adds up to a good 150 usually of those surprise figures. And that tends to be the buffer that people use in their mind. They use that little buffer to buy the treats. And they're not saying don't buy treats. What I'm saying is be aware of where you are, so you can start to refine, start to chip away at columns that are a little bit too big, or you can get a little job that adds an extra $50 and just covers something, or you can start a small eBay business, or you can do a couple of hours in a bar or whatever it might be, whatever's appropriate for you, because that little bit starts to take away that buffer. It starts to add to that area and actually enables you to move forward, because it's very difficult to chase your goals when you're actually chasing a tail. I like that. A dog can't chase its goals when it's busy chasing its tail. Oh, I'm going to keep that one. I like that. So, you get the picture, right? How can you really pursue what you're doing, what you want in your life, when all you're doing is constantly on the grind, trying to pay the bills and capitalist money go round? This is a communist state. Interesting philosophy. Could have worked. They never got there. Got stuck in socialism, and greed took over. That's my opinion. Maybe you disagree. Anyway, love you and leave you. Hope you are amazing. And I hope you're having a great day. And peace, love, happiness, and tons of joy and gratitude coming all your way from St. Petersburg in Russia. Totally love you. Thank you for listening. And ask me questions if you've got questions, because if you're thinking it, someone else is probably thinking it too. You rock, baby. Have a fantastic day, and go and give someone a hug. Mwah.